Hi, and welcome to Legal Affairs. My name is Diamond Liddy, and I'm the public defender for the 19th Judicial Circuit. I am so proud and pleased to welcome our guest, Wydee'a Wilson. Welcome, Wydee'a.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we're going to talk about how she has just moved up the ladder, and I am so proud of her and the work that she does. But she is now the South Regional Director for Probation and Community Intervention for the Department of Juvenile Justice. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Okay. And before we talk about juvenile justice and the evolution and things that you have seen in your years of being involved, let's talk about you for a minute, because it's you have truly been a success for our community. And tell me where you started, how you started, where you, give me your roots, your background, and the evolution of your progression in your position.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity this morning. So I was actually born out of state in North Carolina, but from parents who originated from the Martin County area.
Okay.
So I grew up, believe it or not, in Indiantown.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, I grew up in Indiantown, went through school through the Martin County school system, graduated from South Fork High School in 1989. Then I went off to Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. We call it FAMU in Tallahassee.
Right.
So, just growing up in Indiantown just really gave me a lot of history and background of just understanding what it means to come from menial means,
right,
and be able to get an opportunity to actually go to college was a great opportunity for me. I actually graduated with a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism.
Okay, so you can take over.
Yeah, so I graduated in broadcast journalism, but my minor was in criminal justice.
Okay.
So after I graduated, I came back home to South Fork and started teaching.
Okay.
At South Fork High School, at my alma mater, which was really nice.
And what did you teach?
I started teaching actually special education.
Oh, wow. Okay.
ESC. And I actually had some sisters that were in school, so I was able to teach with and then also be with my sisters who were still in high school.
Right.
So that was nice. Then I got an opportunity.
And let's stop a minute. Did your parents were they college graduates? Or?
My mother is a college graduate.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
She graduated from Shaw University.
Okay.
In Raleigh, North Carolina.
I just was interested because Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Hence why I was born in Raleigh, because she actually went to school there.
Okay.
So just come from real humble upbringing on my mom's side. My grandparents had 11 children.
Wow.
My uncle is actually attorney Willie Gary. So, that we come from sharecroppers who,
we've all heard Willie Gary's story.
Yes, you heard his story, which is my mom and him are brothers and sisters.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So same kind of background, that legacy.
Right.
And so, again, just that opportunity to be able to come back to the community. Because a lot of times what we have is our young people, they go away, which is good. It's good to go away, get your education.
Right.
And unfortunately, some of them do not return back.
Right.
But for those that do come back to the community, they bring that education, they bring the experience,
exactly,
and then they can invest within the community. So getting an opportunity to do that was wonderful. So when I first applied for DJJ, I actually had no idea that there was this system that had been created for kids who were involved in juvenile justice.
Right.
When I was growing up in high school, I was one of those kids that really never got into trouble.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing, but I didn't know that whole world existed.
Well, and to stop you for a moment, it's funny because you talk to community members who are savvy and who are not ignorant and who are educated, but it's always important to let the community and the people know that there are two systems. You know, juveniles aren't treated the same as adults.
Right.
Thank goodness.
Right.
And let's stop you right there. Do you know, Wydee'a, when it got separated? How long ago?
Yes. So while I was in college,
Right.
in 1994,
Is when the separation?
is when the separation
Wow.
occurred from HRS.
Okay.
Old HRS, Health and Rehabilitative Services. So
Right.
that was like DCF and DJJ were one.
Okay.
So in 94, it separated. Then we were under Chapter 39.
Right. Right.
And then in 96 or 7 is when DJJ Chapter 984 and 985 was created.
Right.
And that's where we have our statutory
Authority.
authority and
Right.
stuff there. So yeah, it was separated.
Well, you know, that's funny. That's not that long ago. I did not realize. You know, in my mind, it's always been separate. But yeah, now that you mention it, that's kind of a shame. But anyway,
Yes.
so it did get separated, not in the 90s.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. So when I'm gonna go back to when I applied for DJJ.
Right.
I started working with the department in 1999, okay, and started out as a juvenile probation officer, right here in Fort Pierce,
Right.
in St. Lucie County, and worked my way up through the system. I liked the job. I love what I do now. I loved what I did then. Again, as a probation officer, I got an opportunity to work more with youth and families directly.
Yeah.
More with
More hands-on.
More hands-on with our state attorneys and assistant public defenders and all that stuff. And so it was very gratifying, but I got opportunity to apply for some promotions within the department. I did that and worked my way up to our senior probation officer, then to a supervisor, then to assistant chief, and then to chief probation officer for Circuit 19.
Right.
And so in DJJ throughout the state, we have, we're broken up by circuits.
Okay.
And there are the 20 circuits. Circuit 19 is our Treasure Coast, including Okeechobee. So I was chief probation officer for Circuit 19 for almost 10 years.
Right.
Before I got an opportunity to apply for the position that I'm in now.
Well, okay, so let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
As a DJJ probation officer, you are actually hands-on touching the families, touching the children.
Yes.
That type thing. And then in how many years did you get to be the chief? How long did that take you?
I became chief in 2011.
Okay.
So I started in 99.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2011.
And but in that position, you just oversee the probation officers. But now, how many probation officers are there in Circuit 19?
They're about 40-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. It's under 50 staff.
And they're placed in all 4 counties.
Yes.
What is their caseload?
So the average caseload, it depends on county by county, but I guess for the entire circuit, it's probably somewhere between 30 to 40 youth on their caseloads. Of course, now when COVID happened, one of the things that we saw throughout the entire state is a reduction in crime.
Right.
So in Circuit 19, we actually saw a 29% reduction.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, throughout the whole state. So caseloads may look a little different now because of that than they did maybe prior to COVID-19.
So better, less cases. Okay.
Yes.
But let's talk about that for a moment. Even in the juvenile system, do you think, Wydee'a, that crime was actually down? Or do you feel that law enforcement weren't making the arrests that they would normally make?
During COVID?
Yes.
Yeah. Probably a combination of both.
Right.
Because remember, schools, too, unfortunately, sometimes we have quite a few arrests or youth taken into custody when school is in. Also, you had that combination. The kids were home. they were being, attending school from home virtually.
Right.
Plus, you also had, also with law enforcement, not probably monitoring that as much because kids aren't there. Hopefully, they're home. So I won't say we didn't have any crime or we didn't have any juvenile delinquent acts.
Right.
But definitely, we all saw a decrease, significant decrease.
Well, last month we had Suzanne Cadell, who heads the misdemeanor probation in our circuit.
Okay.
And we talked about, misdemeanor probation, obviously for adults. How does it differ? How does probation differ from adults to children?
Okay. So with children, when children are taken into custody by law enforcement, they still get, I'll tell you something exactly the same. They still get an opportunity of due process.
Right.
So they do get an opportunity to go to court. They could plead not guilty. They can have a trial. Of course, their trial is not in front of a
jury.
peer, jury. The judge oversees that process. So when they're placed on probation, either they're adjudicated or adjudication withheld. So either the judge finds that that child is guilty of a delinquent act or not. Then they're put on supervision. They could be put on supervision with DJJ. That's the majority of it.
Right.
A kid can be placed on supervision with their parent, although we don't use that as much, but they're mainly put on probation with us. All of the kids that enter the juvenile justice system are assigned to a probation officer from day one.
Okay.
From whether they make it to probation or not, a juvenile probation officer, they're assigned to a juvenile probation officer to oversee that case, no matter how short that case is or how long the youth ends up being with us, it is assigned to a probation officer. So once they're placed on probation, we provide supervision for them. And I guess we're similar in the sense that, of course, the adults are put on probation, they're provided supervision.
Right.
And so that piece is similar. We do recommend, and often in the disposition order, a juvenile is assigned court-ordered sanctions, a treatment plan.
Right.
Because our main goal is to work in the best interest of the child. How can we provide services that will turn that child around?
Right.
Because we're working with kids.
Right.
So, and even in the adult system, they're getting to where they understand the importance of treatment and rehabilitation.
Well, and we talked about that, which is, in our lifetime, and having seen it from all areas, it's so refreshing to even as the public defender, I believe in punishment as well.
Right,
I mean, absolutely, it has to be.
Right.
But the pendulum there for a time swung so far where it was nothing but punishment. And forget about mental illness, forget about services, forget about getting someone help. But if you don't get to the core issues, whether it's an adult or a child, you have missed the mark. And guess what? They're going to be back again.
Exactly.
And it's a beautiful thing. Always, and I think, tell me if you don't agree, but always the best interest of the child was the mantra.
Yes.
And we always had that soft spot, if you will, for children. But it's really been enhanced, it seems, recently, and thank goodness. I mean, there are more services, to help a child get on the right track and do good from there on. So and I want to talk about this because I tell kids this all the time when I'm meeting with them or their parents or whatever. And I know you've seen it, and I just kind of want to get your feel of it. Back in the day, if you were arrested as a juvenile, it went away after, what was it, 3 years? I mean, we're talking back in the day. A juvenile arrest meant nothing. If you were or not. I mean, it was no big deal because it would disappear and you could go on. Now, it's a much more serious event. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that as a child, if you get arrested, if you complete the supervision and things like that, it should go away, or what? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, so of course the record, whether it's juvenile or adult, could come back to harm you.
Right.
Whether it was the intention or not. So our juveniles do get opportunity to have certain charges, and now this legislative session they passed for certain felonies to be approved to be sealed or expunged.
Right. Right.
After they've completed a diversion program.
Right.
So there are some parameters set in place for certain records to kind of go away, but then there are some, you know, you have like your domestic. Domestic is, although it's a misdemeanor, it is
there.
a very serious charge,
Yeah.
I think, whether you're a juvenile or an adult. And we've had cases where I know some young folks who wanted to go into the field of like nursing.
Right.
And they've pulled up some kind of way juvenile records.
I know.
And saw these misdemeanors like, you know, batteries and
Right,
domestics.
right.
And, you know, we've always, you know, before I worked with DJJ, I was under that assumption as well that it just kind of went away.
Yeah.
But some kind of way, some agencies and some, even federal government, they will find out.
They will find
so
it.
if you're going into the armed services and any of those branches, they are going to, it's going to show.
Right.
Unless you actually go and ask for it to be sealed and expunged and go through that whole legal process.
But even then, sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean,
but even then,
depending
depending on what
the
the agency is.
You know, that's why I'm sure, and we can talk about it for a moment too, that like the civil citation is such a beautiful thing because it isn't a formal arrest, and that. Although, you know, I don't know. That probably, if you're going to be the president, that may show up too. You know, they'll find a way. But no, it just, especially as a child, and I know I'm sure you feel the same way. It just, you don't want a child to get discouraged because they did something foolish.
Right.
You know, that's the whole goal.
Right.
Okay, so you were chief probation officer, oversaw all of that. Now, what do you do in your position now, Wydee'a?
Okay. So as South Regional Director, my purview is the South region. So the department is divided between the North, Central, and South.
Right.
I have 6 circuits.
I was going to say,
that I oversee.
That's huge.
All the way down to, I start with Circuit 11, which is our Miami-Dade.
Ooh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Circuit 15, Palm Beach County.
That's just as bad.
Circuit 16, which is Key West, Monroe County.
Right.
Circuit 17, which is Broward.
Yeah.
Of course, Circuit 19, and then Circuit 20.
Well, I think you got the most difficult job in the state.
It's a lot. So I assist the Assistant Secretary of Probation.
Okay.
So within DJJ, of course, we have our secretary, we have deputies, which is under the secretary, and under the deputies are assistant secretaries of each branch.
Right.
So probation is one branch, detention, residential,
Right.
prevention. And so I'm that person for the South who will make sure that any programs that we're operating in the South, whether we're, you know, our providers that are providing services for us.
Right.
And as well as our probation.
Okay.
So I oversee the chiefs in those 6 areas. I make sure programs are operating according to law.
And let's back up a moment because some people don't know what programs are. When you speak of programs for juveniles, what are we talking about?
So we're actually talking about services. So we have some programs. We have AMI, which is a provider that provides services for like a day treatment program.
Right.
Day treatment programs are where a juvenile may be ordered, especially down in Miami and Broward. The day treatment program, the kid comes there pretty much the whole day.
And then
they have
gets to go home.
school, they have vocational service, they have evidence-based training, and after
Wow.
that, then they get to go home.
Okay.
So those are like our day treatment programs, facility-based. Then we have like our redirection services, which is like cognitive behavioral therapy, family functional therapy. We have providers that provide those services.
Wow.
And so we have contracts, so we'll be able to help meet the need, because a lot of times we run into families who just don't have the means, insurance to be able to get to complete the sanctions, because these are court-ordered sanctions.
Right.
And so when a kid is court-ordered for counseling, you know, and that family doesn't have insurance, so the department has funding to be able to at least provide some of those needs. So that's what I mean by programs. We have a juvenile diversion program, JDAP, who, when our kids are diverted, we're able to make referrals to them, and they'll handle those diversion cases to keep them from off of probation.
Okay.
So
yeah, if they go through diversion, they're not on probation.
Correct.
Okay. But these are there's hundreds of these, right?
Yes.
With what you
we have quite a few.
Yeah, but I mean, in all the
yes,
because if you get one of these services in the 19th Circuit, you're not going to go to a Dade County program. You're going to
go to the nights. Yes.
Right.
So we try to make sure, like for example, AMI, the day treatment facility based. Now that's only for the South. That's only in Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
I was going to say, I had never heard of it.
Yeah, because they're only there. Now, we used to have a day treatment program in Circuit 19 called the Eckert Leadership Program. You might remember that long time ago.
Yeah.
And then we kind of changed our thinking around day treatment. Now we have, Eckert is actually running this one. Now we have our Juvenile Justice System Improvement Program. We call it JSIS. It is Pathways. So Pathways, instead of, this is more like a community-based day treatment. So there's the facility-based where the kid comes and has schooling, stay there probably 6 hours a day at that facility. Community-based is a kid can go to their home school, but then they come to the program for any evidence-based services that they may have, like a Thinking for a Change, just some evidence-based practices, treatment, and then any other things that they might do with them, you know. But so that youth went to school at home. I mean, not at home, but whatever their home school was. So they go to regular school. So that's the difference between the facility-based and the community facility. They're there for a longer period of time. They have school, everything's there. Community, they actually have school wherever they normally have school, and then we bring them in for other services 5 days a week. So, you know, we've kind of changed different models to see what fits. Because
do they work, Wydee'a?
I think they work. I really do. I think our data shows that they work.
Well, and what is the data? I mean, you know, and I won't hold you to, you know, the penny, but I mean, actually, when the reason I'm asking this is I had asked the same question to Suzanne Cadell about the misdemeanor adult probation, and she gave us hope. I mean, it was really pretty exciting that people who had been through like the DUI and only a small percentage recidivate, you know?
Right.
What about in the juvenile system?
Well, our probation in particular for Circuit 19, for probation, our recidivism rate for the 19-20 fiscal year or 18-19-20 fiscal year was 13%. So each year,
the recidivism was 13?
Yes, for probation, which is not bad when you think about commitment. Now, commitment, because you're dealing with higher risk kids, your commitment recidivism rates might be higher, and they normally are, because you're dealing with more high risk kids. But each year, the recidivism rate changes. So it doesn't stay the same. But in general, we find that, of course, civil citation youth have the lowest recidivism rates. Whether there's like 3%, 4%. Then as you go up move up the ladder to diversion youth.
Right.
We'll have a certain percentage, and like I say, it changes. We actually have what's called a CAR report, Comprehensive Accountability Report, that is available on our DJJ website, and we produce that every year. And you can literally drill down and look at the exact civil citation program, the exact diversion program, to see what their individual recidivism rate
Wow.
is. Because
Okay.
you know, you can have an overall,
Right.
okay, maybe one thing, but if you want to look and see if that particular program is working, you can drill down and actually see for that particular year what the recidivism rate.
Right. In that particular circuit.
Right. In that particular circuit.
Right,
And we have it
right.
broken down circuit by circuit, every single program within each circuit, its recidivism rate. So.
Wow. Oh no.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. No, you know, when you said the South, you know, I'm thinking South, okay. And then it's like, yeah, South is.
All of, yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Six circuits.
So you have to oversee thousands of people. I mean,
I've
not
got
one-on-one, I get that. But
right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big deal stuff.
It's very interesting. One of the benefits, or I guess the positives of COVID-19 is that although we weren't able to kind of be face to face, it allowed us to utilize our virtual platform more.
Right.
And for me, coming in as regional director and actually overseeing such a large area,
right.
Because we were able to use our virtual platform, it made the whole South region smaller.
Yeah.
So I got an opportunity to really develop some relationships, find out what's happening more, because we were on those like Teams and Zoom platforms.
Right.
Whereas if I had to travel, wait until I could travel down to every area, you know.
There's no, I don't know if you'd been able to do it. I mean, that would take you years, it would seem. I mean, to really do the good job that you were probably able to do virtually.
Yes. And so, and then I get an opportunity to kind of see, as in each area has its own unique nuances. And strengths and weaknesses and situations and opportunities and stuff. So being able to just learn that. And I've only been actually regional director officially since October. So it's, but prior to that, I've been sitting in the seat for about a year because I did act before I actually became regional director. But it's the other areas are very interesting.
Oh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
So I appreciate the relationships that we have within Circuit 19. Yeah. People don't realize how
blessed we are.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
No, well, we are almost out of time. Believe we got about. I know it goes so fast. This was so nice to catch up.
It was good catching
And again, so proud of you and what you do. And the community should know we are in great hands. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.